If Amara had known that volunteering at the Lakeside Community Center on a cold, sleepy Saturday morning would lead to her worst day in months, she would have stayed home under her thick comforter, ignoring the world with a cup of ginger tea. But life rarely warns you when it's about to drop a storm on your carefully organized existence. Thank you for visiting our channel. Please support our channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing our videos with your family and friends. Amara was the kind of person who kept lists. Lists of grocery items, lists of books she wanted to read, lists of goals for the year, and even lists of what she would do if she ever had a weekend off. She liked order, structure, and the gentle comfort of knowing she had control over her world. Volunteering at the community center was supposed to be a way to distract herself from the chaos she couldn't control, like the empty ring finger she still touched unconsciously when she was anxious, or the way her parents whispered about her behind closed doors. We just want her to be happy. She was fine. She just needed a project to pour herself into. The Lakeside Community Center was a red brick building that smelled like old wood and warm cocoa, the air filled with the muffled laughter of children and the hum of quiet conversations. It was cozy, if not slightly chaotic, and Amara found herself smiling as she entered, a clipboard pressed against her chest. That smile lasted exactly 30 seconds before she ran straight into him. Whoa, careful there. The voice was warm, slightly amused, and frustratingly calm. Amara stumbled back, her clipboard dropping with a clatter, papers fluttering to the ground like startled birds. She looked up into eyes the color of rain-soaked earth, dark and unreadable, framed by lashes too long for any man to possess. He was holding a hammer, a tool belt hanging low on his hips, and a smirk that instantly set her teeth on edge. "I'm so sorry," she muttered, dropping to her knees to gather the papers. "No worries," he said, kneeling to help, his large hands moving efficiently, annoyingly so. She tried to grab the papers from him, but he held one out of reach, reading it with a raised eyebrow. "Volunteer sign-in sheets and supply requests. Are you the clipboard police?" Amara snatched it from him, her cheeks heating. "I'm the volunteer coordinator, and you are." He stood, offering a hand to help her up. She ignored it, pushing herself up and brushing imaginary dust from her jeans. "Derek," he replied, that smirk still in place. "Derek Hunter, I manage this place. Well, try to." Amara forced a tight smile. "Great, then you know we need to keep things organized." "Organized, huh?" His eyes twinkled with something she didn't like. That's one way to look at it. They were oil and water from the moment they met. Amara liked schedules, labels on bins, color-coded plans. Derek liked figuring it out as we go, which to Amara sounded like an invitation for disaster. The renovation project at the community center was supposed to bring people together, but as the day wore on, it felt like a battleground between them. Those paint cans should be stored in the corner by color, Amara insisted, pointing to the cans Derek and a group of volunteers were dragging around. Derek wiped sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand, giving her a look that was halfway between amused and annoyed. "They're heavy. We're storing them where they fit. It's not rocket science." "It's called efficiency," Amara snapped, crossing her arms. "It's called common sense," Derek shot back, rolling his eyes. The volunteers exchanged awkward glances, quietly edging away as the tension thickened. Later, Amara found Derek in the kitchen, rummaging through boxes labeled cups and utensils. "Why are you digging through everything like a raccoon?" she asked, exasperated. "I'm looking for the coffee filters," he replied, unbothered. "They're in the cabinet labeled coffee supplies. You know, labels, the things you keep ignoring." He turned, holding a filter triumphantly, smirking. "Found it anyway." Amara closed her eyes, inhaling sharply. "You're impossible. And you're intense," Derek said, his smirk fading into something softer, like he was studying her. "Excuse me," she bristled. "Nothing," he muttered, turning to make coffee, his shoulders tense. Amara walked away, her pulse pounding, unsure why her cheeks were warm again. They avoided each other for the next few hours, communicating only when necessary, exchanging clipped words and sharp looks. But as the day drew to a close, a small boy came running through the hall, tripping over a stray cord. He would have hit the ground hard if Derek hadn't moved faster than Amara had ever seen anyone move, catching the boy just in time. "You okay, buddy?" Derek asked, ruffling the child's hair. The boy nodded, wiping tears from his eyes, hugging Derek tightly before running off again. Amara watched, something shifting inside her. Later, as she packed up, She found Derek fixing a wobbly bookshelf in the reading room, the last rays of sunlight streaming through the dusty windows, painting him in gold. She paused, watching him concentrate, the way he adjusted the screws. His brows furrowed, a look of gentle focus on his face. "Need something?" he asked without looking up. "No," she said quickly, turning to leave, but not before she saw the small, tired smile on his face. That night, Amara lay in bed, replaying the day in her mind. Derek was infuriating, chaotic, disorganized, but he also cared. He was kind to the children, quick to help, and always there, fixing things, making people laugh. She didn't like him, not at all, but as she closed her eyes, she realized she was looking forward to seeing him again tomorrow, and that terrified her. If Amara thought she could avoid Derek after the chaos of the first day, she was wrong. It turned out the Lakeside Community Center was short on experienced volunteers for its annual fundraising gala, and since Amara had event planning skills on her volunteer form, the director eagerly paired her with Derek, who managed the facility's operations. "You'll work well together," the director beamed, unaware of the tension crackling between them. Amara forced a smile. Derek just smirked. They started planning in the conference room, a small space with peeling paint, and a round table cluttered with leftover crafts from the kids' art program. Amara opened her laptop, pulling up a spreadsheet. Derek placed a large notepad on the table, scribbling something with a blunt pencil. "What are you doing?" Amara asked, peering at his barely legible notes. "Planning," Derek said. She arched an eyebrow. "That's not planning, that's chaos on paper." He leaned back in his chair, folding his arms, smirking. "It's how I think." "Well, your thinking looks like a toddler's art project." He chuckled. "And your spreadsheet looks like a tax audit." Amara pressed her lips together to hide a smile, turning back to her screen. "I'll handle the budget, the guest list, and the timeline." "Great, I'll handle the decorations, the music, and the auction items." She paused, surprised. "You're good with music." He shrugged, looking away for a moment. "Yeah, my brother was a musician. I picked up a few things." The softness in his voice made her look up, but he was already scribbling again, shutting the moment down. Over the next week, they met every evening after work. At first, it was constant friction. "Why would you pick that vendor for food?" Amara demanded one evening, staring at the menu Derek proposed. "Because it's good, and the owner gives us a discount," he shot back. "It's sloppy," she snapped. "It's real," he replied calmly. She huffed, typing furiously into her laptop. "We need to project a professional image, Derek." He sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. "We're feeding people, Amara, not hosting the Oscars." But it wasn't all arguments. Sometimes, they found themselves laughing despite their differences. One evening, Amara arrived to find Derek dancing with a mop in the hallway, earbuds in, swaying off beat. She couldn't help the small laugh that escaped her. He turned, saw her, and froze, eyes wide. "Don't stop on my account," she teased. His cheeks flushed as he pulled out the earbuds, grinning sheepishly. "Caught me. What were you listening to?" she asked, amused. He hesitated, then showed her his phone screen. Amara blinked. "Frank Sinatra." "Don't judge me," Derek said, holding a hand to his chest dramatically. She chuckled, shaking her head. "I wouldn't have guessed." "Yeah, well, you look like the type who listens to motivational podcasts while organizing sock drawers." "I do not," she protested, but the truth made her giggle. They shared a look, and for a moment, the tension melted into something warm, something that scared Amara enough to look away. Then the storm came. It rained for 3 days straight, the wind howling, the lake rising, water creeping into streets and alleys. Amara's phone buzzed at 2 a.m., jolting her awake. Water was flooding her apartment from the balcony door, soaking her carpet, climbing inch by inch. She scrambled to throw towels down, but it was useless. Panicking, she called the only number that came to mind. "Derek." "Hey," his groggy voice answered after 2 rings. "Derek, I'm sorry, but I need help." She stammered, fighting tears. "Where are you?" His voice snapped awake, firm, grounding. "My apartment, it's flooding. Stay there, I'm coming." 20 minutes later, he showed up in an old sweatshirt and rain-soaked jeans, a determined look in his eyes. They worked together, moving her essentials, laptop, important documents, a few clothes into trash bags. Derek carried boxes to his truck, water sloshing around his ankles. Amara tried to keep herself together, but when she saw her favorite painting ruined, colors bleeding down the canvas, she sank to the floor, covering her face with her hands. "Hey," Derek's voice was gentle as he crouched beside her. "It's just stuff," she whispered, tears slipping through her fingers. "I know," he said, "but it sucks." She looked at him, his wet hair sticking to his forehead, his eyes soft. He wasn't smirking, wasn't teasing, he was just there. Something inside her cracked. They loaded the last of her things, and Derek drove her to the community center, unlocking a small staff room in the back with a cot and a thin blanket. "It's not much," he said, running a hand through his damp hair, "but it's dry." "It's perfect," she whispered, exhausted. They stood in silence, water dripping from their clothes onto the floor, the storm raging outside. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely a whisper. He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "Get some rest." Amara lay awake that night on the cot, listening to the storm, replaying the past few hours. Derek had shown up without hesitation. He didn't make her feel weak for asking for help. He didn't smirk or tease. He was just there, a steady presence in the chaos. And for the first time in a long time, Amara felt like maybe she wasn't alone. The next morning, she found Derek asleep on the couch in the lobby, arms folded, head leaning back, snoring softly. She made 2 cups of instant coffee, placing one beside him. His eyes opened, blinking, and when he saw her, he smiled, a sleepy, genuine smile that reached his eyes. "Thanks," he said, taking the cup. "Don't mention it," she replied, sitting across from him. They drank in silence, the storm still rumbling. But inside, the quiet was warm. Amara looked at Derek, really looked at him. And for the first time, she saw past the smirk, past the banter, past the messy scribbles on notepads. She saw someone who cared, someone who stayed. And that terrified her even more than the storm outside. Amara didn't expect comfort to feel like the sound of rain on old windows, the hiss of instant coffee being stirred, and the low rumble of Derek's tired laugh in the mornings. She had been at the community center for a week, the storm making it impossible for her to return to her flooded apartment. And Derek, well, Derek had become a constant, uninvited but strangely welcome presence. They worked on the gala, planning in the evenings, sitting across from each other at the creaky conference table, stacks of papers, lists, and coffee mugs between them. Amara tried to keep it professional. "Vendor confirmations," she would ask, tapping her pen impatiently. "Done," Derek would reply, spinning his chair lazily. "Silent auction items." Halfway there, she would sigh, pinching the bridge of her nose. But a small smile always tugged at her lips. But it was in the in-between moments that something began to change. Like the morning Amara found Derek in the kitchen, hair messy, humming off-key as he made pancakes for the kids' breakfast program. She stood in the doorway, arms folded, hiding a smile. "Don't just stand there, clipboard queen, grab a plate," he teased. She rolled her eyes but stepped forward, taking a plate, and they stood side by side, flipping pancakes and laughing when one ended up on the floor. Or the night they worked late, sorting through donations, and Amara accidentally knocked over a box, a cascade of stuffed animals spilling across the floor. Derek burst out laughing as she stood there, cheeks flushed, arms in the air. "You're a disaster," he managed between laughs. She threw a stuffed bear at him, hitting him square in the chest. They ended up sitting on the floor, surrounded by plush animals, laughing until their sides hurt. It was during these moments, the small cracks in her carefully built walls, that Amara found herself seeing Derek in a different light. Late one evening, they sat on the back steps of the center, sipping tea, the rain a soft drizzle now, the air smelling of wet earth. "Why do you do this?" she asked suddenly. He looked at her, brow raised. "Do what?" "This," she gestured to the building. "The kids, the endless repairs, the chaos. You could do anything, but you choose this." Derek stared into his tea for a moment, his playful demeanor slipping. "My brother, Ryan, used to run music programs here. This place meant everything to him. When he died, I didn't know how to keep going. So I came here, and I stayed." Amara's chest tightened. "I'm sorry." He shrugged, giving a small, sad smile. "It's okay. This place, it keeps me close to him." She nodded, the silence between them heavy but comforting. "Your turn," he said softly. Amara hesitated. "I was engaged. To someone who made me feel small, like I had to shrink to be loved. I called it off 6 months ago." Derek's eyes softened. "That's brave." "It doesn't feel brave," she whispered. "It is," he said, gently, firmly. She looked at him, and for a moment, the air felt different, charged, alive. The next morning, Amara found a small note on her makeshift desk. "You're stronger than you think. D." She pressed it to her chest, closing her eyes, letting herself feel the warmth it brought. They discovered, accidentally, that they both loved poetry. Amara found Derek sitting on the floor of the reading room, helping a small girl sound out words from a children's poetry book. Hope is the thing with feathers. Derek read, the girl giggling as she repeated him. Amara froze, her heart catching. Later, when they were alone, she whispered, "That's my favorite poem." Derek smiled, a real soft smile. "Mine too." One evening, while setting up auction baskets, Amara tripped over a cord, sending a cup of coffee flying onto Derek's shirt. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she gasped, grabbing paper towels. Derek stood there, dripping coffee, looking at her. Then he started laughing. A deep, warm, unstoppable laugh. Amara's eyes widened, and before she knew it, she was laughing too, tears rolling down her cheeks as they stood there in the middle of the chaos, laughing until they couldn't breathe. As the laughter faded, their eyes met, and the room felt quiet, the world pausing for a breath. Derek's eyes searched hers, something unspoken passing between them. Amara's heart pounded, and for a moment, she thought he might kiss her, but he just smiled, stepping back, clearing his throat. "We should clean this up." "Yeah," she whispered, her face warm. But as they cleaned the mess, Amara realized she was smiling, truly smiling, for the first time in a long time. At the gala, under the warm lights, surrounded by the community they helped, they share a quiet dance. Derek holds her close, whispering, "You're not alone anymore." Amara realizes, in that moment, that what they have is more than friendship. It's safety, it's laughter, it's home. And as they sway together, the music soft around them, Amara lets herself believe in love again. The gala was over. The lights were dimming, the laughter and chatter of the community fading into the soft hum of tired volunteers cleaning up. Empty plates clinked, tables were folded, and the last balloons drifted toward the ceiling. Amara stood near the stage, barefoot, heels in her hand, hair falling from its clip, a soft, tired smile on her lips as she watched Derek help fold chairs, sleeves rolled up, tie hanging loose around his neck. He caught her watching and grinned, shaking his head. "What?" "Nothing," she replied, biting her lip to hide her smile. "You're thinking something," he teased, walking over. "I'm just," she sighed, looking around the room, the warmth in the air still lingering. "I'm happy." His grin softened into something tender. "Yeah, me too." They stood in the middle of the hall, empty now, the fairy lights above them flickering gently. "Dance with me," Derek said suddenly. Amara's eyes widened. "There's no music." He pulled out his phone, scrolling before a soft melody filled the room. Frank Sinatra, of course. Amara rolled her eyes but laughed as Derek took her hand, pulling her closer. They swayed slowly, her hand resting on his shoulder, his hand firm on her waist, their bodies moving in quiet rhythm. Amara's heart thudded in her chest, loud enough she was sure he could hear it. "I'm not a good dancer," she whispered. "You're perfect," he replied softly, his forehead brushing hers. The song played, the world around them blurring until there was only the two of them, the warmth of their breath mingling, their eyes locked. "Amara," Derek began, his voice low, uncertain for the first time. She looked up, searching his eyes. He started, stopping, shaking his head, a soft chuckle escaping him. "I don't have the right words." She smiled, tears stinging her eyes, her hand cupping his cheek. "You don't need to." And then, finally, he kissed her. It was soft, gentle, like a question and an answer all at once. Her arms wrapped around his neck, pulling him closer, his arms circling her waist, holding her as if he was afraid to let go. It wasn't a kiss of desperation, but of discovery, of promises whispered without words, of something that felt like coming home. When they pulled away, their foreheads rested together, both of them breathing softly, eyes closed. "I've wanted to do that for a long time," Derek admitted, his thumb brushing her cheek. Amara laughed softly, tears slipping down her face. "I know." He smiled, pressing another gentle kiss to her forehead. They sat on the floor afterward, leaning against the stage, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her. They talked about everything and nothing, their favorite books, the places they wanted to visit, the fears they still carried. Amara spoke about the fear of letting someone in again, of being hurt, of losing herself. Derek spoke about the guilt he carried over his brother's death, the fear of failing the people he loved. They listened, truly listened, and in that space, they found understanding. When the sun began to rise, casting soft gold through the windows, Derek turned to her, taking her hands. "Stay," he whispered. Amara looked at him, her heart full, her fears still there but softer now, smaller in the light of the morning. "Okay," she whispered back. And so they did. Months later, the community center was thriving, laughter and warmth in every corner. Amara and Derek worked side by side, sometimes bickering, often laughing, always together. On quiet evenings, they would dance in the hall, no music needed, their laughter echoing through the empty room. And when Derek pulled her close, pressing his forehead to hers, whispering, "I see you," Amara would smile, knowing that for the first time, she was truly seen and loved.